let's go back to FDR. I know he had extraordinary powers, but didn't you quote an executive act that he used, that he had to go to Congress for those powers?
The War Powers Act passed during World War II. Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus. But this is still the most broad definition on any continuity plan or emergency document that I've read, and I've read a lot of them, where the president, this supersedes all previous declarations by presidents, and it says that all the power goes into the White House. It doesn't, FEMA, DHS, they're even bypassed. The president declares an emergency and he takes over.
That's very worrisome. It really is worrisome. Let's go to the next caller. Chicago, Illinois. Terry, question or comment, please.
Hi, Michael. I've got a quick question for you. You seem like you're a bit hypocritical on this. Most of the time I listen to you, it's an issue of Bush is not powerful enough. This actually would give him the opportunity to, when time we need him, he can have the power. So you usually said...
Oh, wait a minute. Hold it, sir. You've never heard me argue that any president should be a dictator. I don't want to live in a dictatorship. I think there need to be checks and balances. If Bush had dictatorial powers right now, he would, by the stroke of a pen, legitimize 30 million lawbreakers called illegal aliens. I'm certainly not in favor of that.
That's true.
You see? I mean, we have to have reasoned debate. He's attacking his own party on illegal immigration because they oppose it. Now, can you imagine what would happen if he enacted these powers and started to inter various peoples who were critical of him during a time of emergency? We'd be living in a dictatorship.
Agreed.
So it's not like I'm flip-flopping. I mean, you got to be reasonable here. Next question on this, and we won't do this forever, but we'll go to Sacramento. Les, your comment, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Savage. Mr. Corsi, do you think that there is any possibility that these camps are built for people who are Christians?
You know, it could be. Kind of emergency could be declared. And one of the things I'm worried about, why did President Bush wait 6 years into his term to issue these exceptional directives, national security and homeland security? You know, he had 6 years. Why now? He's just today, in this May 9th declaration, superseding the President Clinton's declaration, which has been in since 1998. What does President Bush know that the rest of us don't know?
Don't know. Now, wait. Now you really got my curiosity. See, here's what I fear. I know that the oligarchy knows the Democrats, they're going to try to throw the election to the Democrats because the Republicans have done everything they want to do for the last 6 years, and it's 8-8. It's Clinton, Bush, Clinton, Bush. So the next ones, God forbid, could be the Democrats under Clinton. She will then have the dictatorial powers that Bush just grabbed for himself. That's what worries me here.
Right, and you know, these powers don't have any congressional limitation on them. The National Emergency Act says you've got to at least declare it and come to Congress with the declaration, and Congress has time to rescind it or revise it. Here the president just declares there's an emergency, and all the powers reside in his office.
Well, let's look at Venezuela right now. We have a dictator in Venezuela who's closed down a TV station, and American leftists are apologizing for him, as I expect, because they're all left-wing scum. They're all dictators, the left-wing vermin. They're actually saying he did the right thing. They want dictatorship when it comes from the left, Jerome.
You know, the problem is the constitutional republic that we've got, Michael, as you well know, was predicated on absolute power corrupts absolutely. We had King George III. We don't need King George W. Bush. If the Founding Fathers wanted to put emergency powers in the Constitution, they could have. They didn't.
So who's complaining most about this, the right wing, or is the left wing also cognizant of what's going on?
The left wing is completely asleep or either deciding to be quiet. I'm not hearing much from the left wing. There's some...
Well, now that's why this story is foul-smelling to me. Not that your story is foul-smelling. Something is up. This means it's a left-wing power grab by George Bush to, in turn, not left-wingers, but you know who.
And I think you're going to start seeing now that this issue is getting speed, and especially after your program today, you're going to see the left-wing blogs starting to pick this up too. The power grab here is completely outside the Constitution. It has nothing to do with a limited power in the case of an emergency. We can agree that there need to be emergency powers, but instead of President Bush just grabbing them, we need a congressional debate and maybe a new law. But this allows the president to declare martial law, seize commodities, assign military forces, stop and control, seize transportation, operate private enterprise, you name it. The president, under these declarations, can interfere with the lives of Americans as he wishes because he says, we're all in danger, it's an emergency, I'm in charge.
So Bush, Cheney become dictators, and the left says nothing. And NSPD 51 means that any president can be a dictator, and we have fundamentally lost our semblance of democracy. I don't understand why I'm the only one talking about it on the radio. Jerome, since this article came out, which was when, last night?
It came out last week, and Michael, I've been doing 5-6 hours a day of radio. I've been, your show is another breakthrough of this news into a much broader audience. I think you're going to see momentum beginning to pick up after you have focused on it. This is going to become a national issue. It's like Dubai ports. Remember, it took a while for Dubai ports to build, too, and it was done equally secretly within the Department of Treasury, but took shows like yours to get the word out before the people realized the danger.
Well, this is more like W ports instead of Dubai ports. The question is where do the ports lead to? To where do the ports lead? I mean, this is W ports. I don't understand why everyone's not asking this question. This order is very worrisome. Let's go to the next caller in New York City on WOR. David, welcome to the Savage Nation. Topic, please.
Mr. Corsi, do you feel that the immigration policy will be considered by President Bush to be a national emergency?
Well, that's a very interesting.
Now, that's a great question.
That's a very interesting question. He could do that. I mean, President Bush is determined to have our borders wide open, and he's determined not to build a fence. I mean, maybe he's going to declare an emergency one way or another and enact this policy. Say, look, it's an emergency. I'm afraid that it's getting too disruptive fighting about illegal immigration. I'm just going to grandfather everybody here. They're all citizens now, and forget about it.
What, and then put anyone who goes in the streets into an internment camp?
Well, if you object to it then, maybe you're the disruptor, and President Bush is the decider, like he says he is. And he's going to decide anything he wants.
Well, no, I look around here in San Francisco, and the number of illegal aliens in certain areas exceed that of the legitimate citizen. And I said, the day could come that I will be thrown out of my own country, the country that my grandfather ran to for freedom. I could have to run out of if I still have the chance to get out of here. Sometimes I get those horrible paranoid thoughts. I got to admit to you, Jerome, with the tens of millions of illegal aliens who the government is in love with against the will of the legitimate citizen, it makes me fear for the value of my citizenship.
Salvador, the FBI invited me to an anti-gang international conference they held. The FBI announced in El Salvador that MS-13, this tattooed drug-dealing El Salvadorian gang, is in 42 states and 2,500 communities and is virtually out of control. Now, that scares me. That comes across our open border. And, you begin to feel like, what's President Bush up to? What's the plan?
Why doesn't President Bush inter them?
Well, I think that would start to make sense. But, we've got to protect them, of course, with their civil rights the same way Ramos and Campion are in prison because they shot these two Border Patrol agents shoot at fleeing drug smugglers. Well, the fleeing drug smugglers got a lawyer, and he's suing Border Patrol for $500,000, and Ramos and Campion, the Border Patrol agents, are still in solitary confinement.
Yeah, I can't believe that with all the senators and congressmen who signed an inquiry on that, they're still locked up. It's frightening to me, the country we're living in. The landscape has changed in ways I can't even understand, and I consider myself to be fairly cognizant of what's going on. I'll tell you the truth, Jerome. This presidency worries me very, very deeply, and it has for a long while. And this illegal alien thing, I saw how mad and mean Bush got yesterday in attacking his core base, and I have a terrible fear that this executive order could play into the hands of him and his cronies who simply want to, by executive order, legitimize the 25 million illegal aliens thereabout, and do it so without any argument. This is frightening, and I'll